How's it going, YouTube? My name is Ninja7 and welcome into a more fun, light-hearted video. I don't want anyone to take this video too seriously, but in today's video, we're going to be talking about the race to world first. As you see here up on the screen, we have Echo and we have Liquid's icons, and what we're going to be doing is just talking about the healer comps. I'm going to be taking a completely blind guess as to what those comps are going to look like for both of these guilds, and it's going to be fun. I don't want anyone to walk away thinking that this is like what the meta is going to be. This is just my complete blind guess, and the purpose of this video is so that when the Race to World First finally does start, we can come back to this video and see just how wrong I was, or maybe I just hit the nail on the head. So let's just go ahead and get started, and hopefully you guys can pick up what this video is about if you're still a bit unsure as we go along. But let's start with what I think is the most obvious choice. What is the one healer that I think both guilds are almost guaranteed to have, in my opinion, and that would be Holy Paladin. The reason being, well, I'm going to go ahead and get this theme out of the way on the first pick, and that is because damage mitigation always has so much value in these Race to World First formats. But why? If you're someone who's always unsure why damage mitigation is so talked about in the healer role, let me explain a bit of why, just in the simplest terms. Instead of fully scaling your healer roster off of your own healing, your own stats, you look toward damage mitigation, because how much damage you're mitigating is a flat number. Like, for example, Devotion Aura, it's a flat number, but it scales off of the boss's damage. And when you scale off of the boss's damage, no matter how undergeared you are, you're still getting a larger value from that damage mitigation. So that's why I think Devotion Aura plus Aura Mastery, plus on top of that, they are just doing incredible healing, and they have an excellent healing profile for a Race to World First environment. If someone takes a big slam, they just can knock them right back up to full with like Lay on Hands. It's always good to have like a Holy Paladin in your roster, and I think they just are a shoo-in the current circumstances. Not to mention these Race to World First formats, the tank survivability is often an issue, especially at first before they kind of get those max gear pushes going, and the ability to have a beacon on each of the tanks and just help their survivability that much more, giving them that much more effective health, is just incredible. That's why, for those reasons, that's why I personally would think that the first auto include on each of these comps is going to be a Holy Paladin. Outside of that, I would argue that there is another healer that is likely to be an auto include. This healer has just performed so well throughout the beta testing phase and has dodged nerfs so far, at least. And they have an excellent profile, provides so much utility to a raid environment. And on top of that, if you already don't know who I'm going to talk about, this should give it away. On top of that, they just now have a raid buff, so that kind of helps solidify their slot in a raid team. Now, it is kind of, it's not a unique slot to the healer role or a unique buff to the healer role. However, we don't know what the rest of the meta is going to look like, what these raid comps are going to look like in the DPS roles. So for those reasons, I think Resto Shaman is currently poised to be a pretty good auto include for both of these raid comps. The throughput that they are seeing, or at least they saw on the beta, is through the roof, given how much utility they bring. Also, like I said, they bring a raid buff now. This could be a good spot to get that raid buff, meaning that groups don't have to look for an enhancement shaman or an elemental shaman. They can just put in a very capable healer into one of their healer slots in Restoration Shaman. Like I said, the throughput's through the roof. They have so many cooldowns that they can alternate between for given situations, stacking multiple cooldowns on top of each other. And if a fight allows Spirit Link Totem to pop off, then it absolutely will. Not just providing a massive amount of healing, but also giving tank survivability in pinch scenarios, giving a ton of mitigation, kind of like a mini barrier on top of its healing value. I mean, it's just such an excellent and versatile cooldown and such an excellent and versatile spec. I think we are very likely to see a good number of Resto Shamans in the Race to World First race. And on top of all of that, I really like the synergy of having Earth Shield on your tank, just giving them that much more mitigation on top of Devo Aura and some of the other mitigation effects that we're going to be talking about soon. And I like having Spirit Link Totem as an activatable semi-mitigation, semi-raid healing cooldown on top of Aura Mastery and Devotion Aura. I think these two healers really pair very well and synergize very well within their kits. So for that reason, I think Resto Shaman does so far earn at least the second slot on these healer rosters. Now the next two are the weird ones, because normally there's always like two auto includes that both raid rosters have, but then these last two slots are kind of where these two guilds like to vary depending on like their personal rosters. Like maybe they just have a cracked Mistweaver Monk, for example, like Echo does in Velo, or maybe they have like a cracked Priest that will just die hard play Priest regardless of the situation, and like Nyx Priest. But I don't know a ton about the comps. You know, they always kind of keep things behind closed doors, a lot of information secret. So for that reason, I kind of just want to look at this third slot as normally you see like one standout healer that just does so much more throughput than the rest, like just does so much more healing, or maybe their cooldowns are just that much more strong than the rest of the healers, so they kind of just earn that third slot by merit alone. And for that reason, I think it's very safe to say that this third slot could just go to a Preservation Evoker. I think Preservation Evoker's throughput is like kind of insane right now, and one of the strengths that you don't hear about a lot is the importance of having like a varying playstyle. So like, meaning if a fight looks different than another fight, can this healer adapt their build by like tweaking like one or two talents to get even more throughput from that? And you know, when looking at these Race to World first scenarios, that min-maxing of just a little bit is very important. And if you haven't been paying attention, Preservation Evoker is kind of the master of that. They definitely are able to adapt their build to the situation. They have like Spirit Bloom builds for stacked fights that get very solid throughput. They can adapt their ramp even by either going like an Emerald Communion style ramp or like a Dream Breath style ramp with like Flame Shaper, snapping all of those Dream Breath taunts with a bunch of echoes out. Like, they can do a ton of different ramps, and I think that is very important. And when you look at these Race to World First guilds, the people piloting these specs is important. And like I said, I don't have any information about the rosters, the healing rosters that they're going to go for. However, you can bet that the Evoker pilots are going to be the best pilots in the world of Preservation Evoker. So all of the different branching ramps that you can go, all the different stasis scenarios, they're going to have them mastered, and they're going to be very skillful with them. And for that reason, putting Preservation in a really solid pilot's hands already ups the value of that spec by a ton. The only drawback here, though, is kind of like Resto Shaman. We just don't know what the rest of the comp is going to look like. You know, every single one of the 20 slots matters, and depending on how augmentation looks, you know, there could be like 2 augmentations. You know, who knows with Blizzard, like, and with these comps, they might just like min-max with their augmentations. And for that reason, like, we just don't know, like, would a comp look good if there are 2 augmentations and a Preservation Evoker? Or would that just be too many evokers, you know, too many cooks? I don't know, but I think it's pretty safe to say that one of these guilds is going to rock a Preservation Evoker just because of how much throughput they have. However, I think, like I said before, I do think that Echo might go for the Mistweaver. Mistweavers have a ton of throughput still. I mean, they're still like throughput machines. They do also have some different builds, you know, some performing better than others in a vacuum. And like I said, Velo is just insane at Mistweaver. I do think Velo used to play Resto Shaman as well. So would Velo swap to the Resto Shaman slot? Maybe, but if not, if they've already gotten another Resto Shaman, which I'm sure they have plenty on the back burner, I think having Velo on Mistweaver is very likely that we're going to see that. These 2 specs do perform kind of similar roles. You know, it's a lot of people kind of compare these 2 together a lot. Do we do that too much? Probably, but I do think that this throughput, I'm calling it the throughput slot, is pretty variable. There are so many healers that are putting out crazy healing. Like, could we just see a second shaman in this spot? Most likely. Could we skip the shaman and see like two Prez Evokers or a Prez and a Mistweaver? Probably. That's the point of this video. Is I'm just going to just nail in a guess, and we'll see how wrong I am in the long run, and we'll have fun along the way. This is a great time also to say that if you're watching this video and you have completely differing opinions from me, that is great. That is what this video is designed for. I want to hear that discussion down in the comments. Please don't flame me for these picks. It's not meant to be taken too seriously. We're just going to have fun with it, but I do want to have those discussions with you down below. Now, as we move into this fourth slot, it's important to note that a lot of the stuff that we're basing this, or I'm basing this on in this video, is the healing charts, what we saw in the beta, and we're kind of piling or stacking on top of that all the nerfs and all the buffs that we've seen since that time, which there have been quite a few. And for that reason, and the fact that both guilds have some pretty crazy priests on their roster that we've seen throughout the years, it's hard to not see a Race the World First without a priest spec. Now, both of the priest specs are like kind of underperforming throughout the beta, or they did underperform, but I just think it would be a wild Race the World First if we don't see a priest spec. And also there is Resto Druid, and I want to go ahead and say that I don't think any of these specs are bad. I don't think if you're watching this video and you're like on the fence about what you should main, don't make any decisions based on this video. This is just me trying to form a comp. There's so many disclaimers I have to make in this video. But with that being said, I do think it's pretty likely, since Nick is such an insane Disc Priest, yes, Disc Priest has slightly underperformed throughout beta, but they did just see a very small buff. The Atonement buff was only to like outside of raid environments, so that doesn't have anything to do here. However, their Shadow Word Pain and Purge the Wicked damage was increased by 20%, which can help their Atonement healing by quite a bit. That maintenance healing, that throughput can go up a bit. It also can help their ramp scenarios by a little bit. It's not much, but it's going to be a little boost to their throughput. And on top of that, I mean, Power Word Barrier is insane for a mitigation cooldown. Stack that on top of the mitigation that you're going to get from Devotion Aura. Stack that on top of the Atonement mitigation that they go. So, I mean, they provide a ton more than just throughput. And not to mention, PI is disgusting. So not only do you look at charts and see how much throughput a priest is putting out, but you also have to put into the equation how much damage a comp is going to get from PIing, like, I don't know, like an Unholy Death Knight, or, one of those like crazy PI specs, like maybe one of the mages or like a warlock or something. So they bring a lot to the table, and their ramps are invaluable. Some of these fights go on for, a couple minutes, and having like two barriers just completely laugh at a giant slam that would normally one-shot other comps or something is it's just really solid. Being able to stagger your barriers with your like Spirit Link Totem and your Aura Mastery is just so much mitigation, and stack on top of that just the massive HPS ramp that Disc Priest can provide, the rewind from Prez Evoker, or the Yulon ramp from a Mistweaver Monk plus like Revival or something, and then all the totem healing that you get from Shamans. Like, this is a pretty solid, well-rounded comp, in my opinion. There are some like weak points, like, I don't know, like maybe just the Disc Priest throughput, but I think having like Resto Shaman, Holy Paladin, and Preservation Evoker more than makes up for that. Now for Echo's comp, I do also think, I don't know, see, for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and go out on a whim and say that I do think we are likely to see some repeat healers. So for example, it's pretty likely that we could see like a repeat of like a Resto Shaman, for an example, or like a repeat of a Holy Paladin, something like this. Like, we could see repeats, like, duplicates of healers. And I think the most likely outcome is that like one of the comps is going to repeat. But what would they repeat though? Now that I'm looking at it, like I have no idea because we don't like there are some question marks. Like Mistweaver Monk is a question mark. Um, I don't know. Could we see a world where there's a comp without a priest on it, or like what if one goes like just sneaks in a resto druid? You know, Echo's known for doing some weird, wacky stuff. I think I'm just gonna hard commit and say that I don't know. Let's get a little weird. Look, Holy Priest is underperforming like crazy, but their cooldowns are very strong, and they have PI. I don't know because no, you know what? Okay, I'm locking it in. I am locking it in. I think one of these comps is going to run like a double shaman, maybe, because two spirit links, I mean, they don't really work well together, but you can stagger them, like use them both for, you know, follow-up mechanics and stuff. Having spirit link totem plus a Mistweaver Monk's ramp is insane. If you're someone who watches me, you likely play Mistweaver, and if you have a Resto Shaman in your comp, you know just how good it feels to just pop Yulon and ramp during a Spirit Link drop. It just feels so good because there's like always healing to be done. That combo is pretty nice. I'm still locking in the Mistweaver Monk. We're probably going to see a Mistweaver Monk in the 8 core. And I think Echo's most likely to have that. I also think that one of the tanks on Liquid really likes Brewmaster, if I'm remembering correctly. So having the Mistweaver slot on Echo, or the Monk slot on Echo be in the healer role makes sense. Having a duplicate, I think Resto Shaman is pretty likely to be that duplicate. If not, like maybe an Evoker is probably the next most likely to be duplicate. So maybe like 2 Evokers and a Resto Shaman or something on one of these comps. But we're just gonna just lock this in. I don't think it's right, but that's what's fun about this video. What do you guys think is most likely to be seen on this Race to World First, specifically with both of these 2 guilds? I was tempted to make like a method section, but you know, it's just, I don't know, we're just rocking with these 2 guilds because they're usually the top 2. This is my final answer. I think Holy Paladin is a pretty safe lock-in for at least 1 slot in a role. I think Resto Shaman is just performing exceptionally right now. Same with Evoker, so it's kind of like safe to put them on comps. And then I think that the flex slots on each of these comps go to Disc Priest for maybe Nick, and then for Liquid, and then maybe Velo is probably going to whip out the Mistweaver again. If not, swap to that Resto Shaman, and then maybe we see the Evoker take this 4th slot. But this is what we're locking in. I don't know. I know I'm going to get flamed in the comments. Maybe I just skipped over something like maybe Resto Druid's like crazy right now and I'm just missing it. But what do you guys think? I want to hear your comps down below. And then we can all come back to this video. I'll make a follow-up analysis as the Race World First kicks off and see just how wrong we were. But like I said, this is all for fun. By the way, speaking of fun, hit that subscribe button. It's pretty fun. Give you a nice little click of dopamine. Turning the red button gray. It's just like healing someone to full health. So I've heard. And we're getting very close to 10,000 subscribers. So let's get there during the War Within. That would be so amazing. And I appreciate all of you guys for supporting this channel, especially to these patrons. These guys keep the ring light on. They keep this channel going. So thank you guys so much. Also, thank you for hitting the like button on your way out if you like this, and for commenting down below. Reminder, be nice to each other in the comments. No one is wrong. We don't know yet. Just be nice, be polite, and take that into the game. Be polite in the game and elsewhere in the world. And guys, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care.